First contact in the Arctic. The wind howled across the Svalbard research station as Dr. Nadia Petrova adjusted her thermal imaging equipment. The midnight sun cast an ethereal glow across the endless expanse of ice and snow, creating shadows where there should be none. She'd spent 3 years studying the accelerated glacial melting patterns here, but tonight something felt different in the air. Her instruments had picked up an anomalous heat signature deep within the glacier, unlike anything she'd recorded before. The reading didn't match any known geological activity, and it was moving. Nadia pulled her thick Arctic gear tighter around herself and radioed back to the base. "Base, this is Petrova. I'm tracking an unusual thermal signature in grid E7. Permission to investigate." Static crackled before a response came through. "Negative, Dr. Petrova. Storm front approaching. Return to base immediately." Nadia looked at her instruments again. The signature was growing stronger, and her scientific curiosity wouldn't let her walk away. "Base, there's something here that could be crucial to our research. I'll be careful." She switched off her radio before they could protest and began trudging through the snow toward the anomaly. The winds grew stronger with each step, but the heat signature was now off the charts. As she crested a ridge, her breath caught in her throat. The glacier had split open, revealing something metallic gleaming in the perpetual daylight. Steam rose from the crevasse where the object had melted through layers of ancient ice. It was roughly cylindrical, about the size of a small bus, with a surface that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Nadia approached cautiously, her scientific training warring with her instincts to run. The object was clearly artificial, but it bore no resemblance to any human craft she'd ever seen. As she drew closer, she noticed patterns etched into its surface, mathematical sequences that made her heart race with recognition. Prime numbers. The universal language. A sudden cracking sound echoed across the glacier. Nadia stumbled backward as a seam appeared in the object's surface. She should run, alert authorities, do anything except what she was about course to do. But as the seam widened into an opening, her feet carried her forward instead of back. Inside, bathed in a soft purple light, lay a humanoid figure. Their skin had a peculiar iridescent quality, like mother of pearl, and what appeared to be crystalline formations protruded from their joints. They weren't moving. Nadia's medical training kicked in. She reached for the figure's neck, searching for a pulse, then remembered she had no idea if this being even had a circulatory system like humans. But when she touched their skin, it was warm, and a faint vibration hummed beneath her fingers. The being's eyes snapped open, all 3 of them. They were deep violet and seemed to swirl with galaxies. Nadia gasped but didn't pull away. The being reached for her face with a trembling hand, and when their fingers touched her temple, her mind exploded with images. A dying star, a desperate escape, a mission to find help. The images came with emotions attached: fear, hope, determination. This wasn't just first contact. This was a cry for help. The being tried to sit up but collapsed back with a musical sound that Nadia somehow knew was pain. The storm was getting worse, and the temperature was dropping rapidly. She made a decision that would change her life forever. "I'm going to help you," she said, knowing they probably couldn't understand her words, but hoping they'd understand her intent. "But we need to move fast." She had an emergency sled attached to her snowmobile. It would be a tight fit, but it was their only option. The being was surprisingly light as she helped them out of the craft. As soon as they were clear, the object began to change, folding in on itself until it was no bigger than a suitcase. The being gestured weakly, and Nadia understood. Take it with them. The journey back to her private research cabin was treacherous. The storm had picked up, and the being's condition seemed to be deteriorating. They made it inside just as the worst of the blizzard hit. Nadia fired up her backup generator and began gathering every blanket she owned. As she worked to make her unexpected guest comfortable, her mind raced with questions. Who were they? Why were they here? What would happen when others found out? Because others would find out. A crash like that wouldn't go unnoticed for long. The being reached for her temple again, and this time the images were clearer. They showed her their name, not in words, but in a sensation that her mind translated as zenith. They showed her their home, a world of crystal spires and purple skies, now endangered by their sun's imminent collapse. They were a scout, sent to find suitable worlds for relocation, but their ship had been damaged passing through an asteroid field. Nadia sat back, overwhelmed by the implications. She was a scientist, trained to observe and record, but this went beyond anything in her experience. The rational thing would be to alert authorities immediately. Instead, she found herself making tea with honey, hoping the sweet liquid would help her guest recover. "Welcome to Earth, Zenith," she said softly, watching as they examined the steaming cup with their 3 curious eyes. "I think both our lives just got a lot more complicated." Outside, the storm raged on, but inside her small cabin, Nadia felt like the eye of a hurricane. She had no way of knowing that this moment, this choice to help rather than fear, would not only change her life, but potentially the course of human history. As Zenith's crystalline structures began to glow with a soft, pulsing light, Nadia realized she'd need to make a lot more tea. It was going to be a long night, and somewhere in the storm, she knew others would be coming. She just hoped she'd have time to understand her guest before she had to protect them. The awakening. Dawn never truly came in the Arctic winter, but Nadia's instruments told her it was morning. She had spent the night monitoring Zenith's vital signs, or what she assumed were vital signs. The crystalline formations on their joints pulsed with a stronger light now, and their iridescent skin had taken on a healthier sheen. Zenith sat up slowly on her makeshift bed, all 3 eyes focusing on different parts of the cabin simultaneously. They reached for Nadia's temple again, but this time the mental connection felt different. Instead of just images, words began forming in her mind. "Your kindness, unexpected." The thoughts came with a musical undertone. "My species, we believe humans too primitive for contact." Nadia couldn't help but laugh. Yet here you are, crashed in our primitive world. The crystalline formations flickered in what she was beginning to recognize as amusement. Perhaps we were wrong about many things. Their conversation was interrupted by the distant sound of helicopters. Nadia rushed to her window and her heart sank. 3 black military choppers were approaching through the dim Arctic twilight. She should have known they'd track the crash. "Can you walk?" she asked urgently, turning back to Zenith. "We need to move." Zenith stood gracefully, their crystalline joints humming. "My systems, restored enough. But why run? Are these not your people?" "Some of my people," Nadia began packing essential supplies, "aren't ready for you. They might see you as a threat. Or worse, a resource to be studied and exploited." The alien's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, like we once viewed humans. Nadia paused her frantic packing. "You're learning quickly. Your mind teaches much. Your fear teaches more." They grabbed the compressed ship, still no larger than a suitcase, and headed for Nadia's emergency tunnel. All research stations in the Arctic had them in case of polar bear attacks, but she never thought she'd use it to escape her own government. They emerged 100 meters from the cabin, the wind whipping snow around them. Nadia's snowmobile was hidden in a nearby cave, protected from the elements. As they rode away, she saw figures in white Arctic gear rappelling from the helicopters onto her cabin's roof. The next few hours were a blur of ice and strategy. They couldn't go to any populated areas, but they needed shelter. Nadia had spent years mapping this region, and she knew of an abandoned mining station that might serve their purpose. As they approached the old station, Zenith's mental voice reached out again. "Your career, your life, you risk everything. Why?" Nadia thought carefully about her answer as she worked to get the station's backup generator running. "Because some things are more important than career or comfort. Meeting you, it changes everything we thought we knew about the universe. But more than that, you needed help. That's something humans are actually pretty good at, when we choose to be. The mining station was cold and dusty, but it was secure. As Nadia set up their temporary home, Zenith began unfolding their ship. In its compressed state, it had been repairing itself, and now it expanded to reveal a communication array. My people. Zenith's thoughts carried a weight of sadness. They must know I found something extraordinary. Your dying son, Nadia remembered. How long do your people have? 3 of your Earth years. But now, their crystalline formations glowed brighter. Now perhaps we need not flee to the stars. Perhaps we can work together. Your world has space enough, and we have technology that could help preserve it. Nadia thought about the melting glaciers she'd been studying, about humanity's struggle with climate change. A partnership. If your people don't dissect me first, Zenith's mental voice carried that musical amusement again. Their conversation was interrupted by a distant rumbling. Nadia rushed to the window, expecting to see military vehicles. Instead, she saw lights in the sky. Not helicopters this time, but something much larger and distinctly non-human. The rescue beacon, Zenith explained. My ship sent it when it finished repairs. That is, my people. Nadia's heart raced. One alien she could hide, but an entire ship. As if reading her thoughts. And perhaps they were. Zenith reached for her hand. Trust flows both ways, they communicated. You showed me humanity's capacity for kindness. Let me show my people the same. The ship was descending now, its surface rippling with the same oil-slick colors as Zenith's smaller vessel. Nadia stood straighter, realizing she was about to become humanity's first official ambassador to an alien species, even if it wasn't exactly an authorized position. Together, she asked. Zenith's crystals pulsed with warm light. Together. Perhaps the universe brought me to your glacier for a reason. My people need a new home. Your people need our technology. And both our peoples need to learn that difference need not mean distance. As the ship landed in a swirl of snow and aurora-like lights, Nadia felt the weight of the moment. Whatever happened next would change the course of 2 civilizations. But looking at Zenith, seeing the hope in all 3 of their eyes, she knew that change could be beautiful. The ship's hull began to iris open, and Nadia squeezed Zenith's crystalline hand. It was time to build a bridge between worlds, one act of kindness at a time. Worlds collide. The alien ship's entrance spiraled open like a blooming flower made of liquid metal. Nadia held her breath as 3 figures emerged, their crystalline formations glowing in patterns she hadn't seen on Zenith. Their skin shared the same pearlescent quality, but each had unique color undertones, one blue, one gold, and one with a subtle rose hue. Zenith stepped forward, their mental voice broadcasting to include Nadia in the exchange. Elders of the Luminary, I present Dr. Nadia Petrova of Earth. She saved my life, and has shown us that our assumptions about humanity were deeply flawed. The gold-tinted elder moved forward, all 3 eyes fixed on Nadia. You sheltered one of our own at great personal risk. This speaks well of you, but one human's kindness does not ensure your species' readiness. Before Nadia could respond, the distant sound of helicopter rotors cut through the Arctic air. The military had found them. Zenith's crystalline formations pulsed with alarm, but Nadia stepped forward with determination. Let me handle this, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. It's time to show you that I'm not the only human capable of understanding and acceptance. The helicopters landed in a swirl of snow, and soldiers in white Arctic gear poured out, weapons raised. But they hesitated at the sight before them. 4 aliens with crystalline formations and pearlescent skin, standing calmly beside a renowned climate scientist. A familiar figure emerged from the lead helicopter. Dr. Petrova, called out Director Hammond of the International Science Council. I see you've been busy. Director, Nadia acknowledged, positioning herself between the soldiers and the luminary. I was about to contact you. We have an opportunity here that could change everything. Hammond approached slowly, his weathered face unreadable. You know the protocols for potential extraterrestrial contact. This should have been handled through proper channels. With all due respect, sir, proper channels would have meant treating them as threats or specimens rather than the advanced civilization they are. Nadia gestured to the luminary ship. They need our help, and they can help us in return. The blue-tinted elder stepped forward, their mental voice reaching out to all present. The soldiers startled at the sudden telepathic contact, but held their positions. Your world faces great challenges, the elder communicated. We have seen the damage to your climate, the melting of these ice sheets. Our technology could help reverse this damage. In return, we seek sanctuary. Hammond's expression shifted from stern to intrigued. Sanctuary. Zenith shared images of their dying sun, the impending doom of their civilization. We have 3 of your years before our system becomes uninhabitable. We do not seek to conquer or replace, but to coexist and collaborate. The rose-tinted elder added, Dr. Petrova has shown us that humanity is capable of more than we believed. Perhaps it is time for both our species to move past our preconceptions. Hammond looked between the luminary, their ship, and Nadia. She could see the wheels turning in his head, the scientific possibilities, the diplomatic implications, the potential benefits to humanity. The world governments will need convincing, he said finally, and there will need to be protocols, agreements, safeguards. Of course, Nadia agreed, but let's establish those protocols together, as equals, not as captors and specimens. The tension in the air began to dissolve. Hammond ordered his men to lower their weapons, and genuine dialogue began. The luminaries shared more details about their technology, clean energy systems, atmospheric purification methods, advanced materials that could revolutionize human industry while minimizing environmental impact. As the discussions continued, Zenith moved closer to Nadia. You continue to surprise me. Your trust in your own people matched your trust in us. Nadia watched as human scientists and soldiers began cautiously interacting with the luminary. Curiosity overcoming fear. Humans are complicated. We can be fearful and aggressive, but we can also be compassionate and adaptable. Sometimes we just need a chance to show our better nature. The gold-tinted elder approached them. The council will want to meet you, Dr. Petrova. You have begun. Nadia watched the luminary elders during the debate. Their crystalline formations had dimmed, a sign she now recognized as deep distress. These beings who had entrusted their future to humanity were preparing to flee again. No, she said firmly, stepping into the center of the holograms. We didn't come this far to surrender to fear. She turned to Stellar. Your ships can be converted for defense. Yes, but we are few now. Most of our people are still in transit from our homeworld. But we're not few. Nadia looked at the assembled human leaders. We have militaries, resources, and something the Nexus doesn't expect. A unified planet ready to defend both our species. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Luminary engineers worked with human military specialists to adapt Earth's satellite network into a defensive grid. Their ships, designed for peaceful exploration, were quickly modified with human weapons systems, a merger of technologies never meant to work together. Nadia found Zenith in the facility's highest spire, their 3 eyes fixed on the approaching threat. Your people are risking everything to help us, they said. So did yours, when you chose to trust us instead of running. She took their crystalline hand. That's what partnership means. The Nexus ship emerged from light speed within Earth's orbit, its size blotting out the stars. A transmission came through, translated by luminary technology. Surrender the luminary and their technology, a harsh voice demanded. Do so, and your primitive world will be spared. Hammond, standing with the combined Human Luminary Defense Council, laughed darkly. Primitive. Allow us to demonstrate how primitive we are. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations on both worlds. Human military strategy combined with luminary technology created a defense the Nexus never expected. Earth's combined nuclear arsenal, enhanced by luminary energy manipulation, created an electromagnetic pulse that disabled the massive ship's primary systems. But the real surprise came from the supposedly primitive humans themselves. While the Nexus focused on the obvious threats, a team of hackers from 6 different nations slipped through their overconfident cybersecurity, turning their own weapons against them. The Nexus commander's next transmission was markedly different. This is impossible. You're savages. You haven't even achieved interstellar flight." "No," Nadia responded, standing proudly beside Zenith. "We're partners. And you're in our space." The Nexus ship retreated, limping away from the combined might of 2 civilizations that had chosen to stand together. As cheers erupted throughout the facility, Stellar approached Nadia. "We worry humanity wasn't ready for the cosmos," the Elder admitted. "We were wrong. Perhaps it was the cosmos that wasn't ready for humanity." Nadia watched as human and luminary crews celebrated together, their differences forgotten in the joy of shared victory. "We all had choices to make," she said. "Fear or trust, conflict or cooperation, running or standing together." Zenith's crystals pulsed with bright warmth. "And now, what choice comes next?" She looked at the stars, thinking of the vast universe beyond and the unlimited potential of their united civilizations. "Now we choose to move forward together. And I have a feeling the cosmos isn't ready for what we'll achieve." The northern lights danced above them, but now they were joined by the gentle glow of luminary ships bringing their families home. Not to the home they'd lost, but to the one they'd found, with allies they'd never expected but now couldn't imagine living without. Beyond the stars, 1 year after the Nexus incident, Earth had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The Arctic research station where it all began had evolved into a sprawling metropolis of crystal and steel, where humans and luminary lived and worked together. The once melting glaciers had stabilized, the first success of a global environmental restoration project that was rapidly healing Earth's wounds. Nadia stood on the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar vessel, a hybrid of human ingenuity and luminary technology. Below her, Earth shone like a jewel, its atmosphere clearer than it had been in centuries. Beside her, Zenith's crystals pulsed with anticipation. "The Pathfinder is ready," they communicated, their mental voice filled with pride. "Our first joint mission to the stars." The ship represented everything they'd achieved together. Human creativity had revolutionized luminary ship design, while luminary technology had solved the problems that had kept humans bound to their solar system. But more than that, it represented a promise that they would face the universe's challenges together. Director Hammond, now sporting silver temples from the stress of managing Earth's most significant technological leap in history, joined them at the window. The Security Council just approved the final protocols for the Interstellar Cooperation Initiative. We're really doing this. The initiative would send mixed crews of humans and luminary to explore the galaxy, seeking other civilizations ready to join their growing alliance. The Nexus retreat had spread word through the cosmic community. Earth was no longer an isolated backwater, but home to a powerful partnership of peoples. 10 ships, Stellar announced, approaching with the other elders. 10 crews, 10 chances to show the galaxy a better way forward. Each ship would carry scientists, diplomats, and, if necessary, defenders from both species. They would seek out worlds in need, share their combined knowledge, and offer membership in what humans had dubbed the Bright Alliance, a coalition dedicated to mutual support and advancement. As the launch countdown began, Nadia reflected on how far they'd come. The luminary had arrived desperate for sanctuary, and instead found partners. Humans had feared alien contact, only to discover their greatest allies. Together, they'd turned potential tragedy into triumph. "A message from the surface," Hammond said, checking his quantum-enhanced tablet. "Global temperatures have dropped another degree. The Australian reefs are showing strong signs of recovery. And our solar shields have extended the life of our home star by millennia," added the rose-tinted elder, whom Nadia now knew as Aurora. Together, we solved both our world's greatest challenges. But it wasn't just the big achievements that mattered. Nadia had seen children of both species playing together in the new parks, their laughter needing no translation. She'd watched human artists collaborate with luminary composers to create entirely new forms of music that touched both species' souls. In universities across Earth, students of both races studied together, each bringing unique perspectives to age-old questions. The final launch sequence initiated. Zenith, now the Pathfinder's co-commander alongside Nadia, turned all three eyes to their crew. Humans and luminaries stood side by side at their stations, their differences forgotten in their shared purpose. 5 years ago, Nadia addressed them. I was studying ice melt patterns, thinking I knew what my future held. Then a chance encounter changed everything, not just for me, but for all of us. She looked at each crew member in turn. We're about to go further than any human or luminary has gone before. We'll face unknown challenges, meet new civilizations, and make decisions that could change the course of history. But we won't face any of it alone. The ship's crystal core engines hummed to life, a sound like singing stars. On the surface below, millions watched as humanity's first interstellar vessel prepared to leap into the unknown. But this wasn't just humanity's achievement. It belonged to both peoples, a testament to what could be accomplished when fear gave way to friendship. Course plotted, announced the human navigator, her hands dancing over controls that merged touchscreens with crystal interfaces. We are go for stellar launch. Zenith's crystals glowed with their brightest light yet. The universe awaits. As the Pathfinder broke free from Earth's orbit, Nadia saw their world as she imagined the luminary had first seen it. A blue jewel full of possibility. But now it wasn't just humanity's cradle. It was the birthplace of something greater, a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. The ship's quantum drive engaged, and the stars stretched into streams of light. They were on their way to make history again, not as separate species, but as one crew, one team, one family reaching for the infinite together. Behind them, Earth and its new crystalline cities gleamed in the sunlight, a beacon of hope in the vast cosmic ocean. And ahead lay all the possibilities they would face together, beyond the stars.